привет. Спасибо, что пришли.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Меня зовут Виталий Масютин.
My name is Vitaly Masyutin.
И
I worked in Platformix company.
достаточно, возможно, пафосной и амбициозной темой, на тему того,
We are here with quite an ambitious topic,
безопасность организации,
how to organize corporate security,
требований, рисков и угроз. Если это немножко упростить,
automated approach.
с учетом, наверное, динамики изменений.
So, taking into account the dynamics of change in our
Иногда возникает
product landscape and our industry, sometimes there is a feeling that security is, when people understand something, they tell stories to people who understand something too, and everybody pretends that everybody understands.
поделиться некоторым своим опытом на тему
But today we would like to share our experience,
безопасности до приемлемого
at least how to bring up your information security to an appropriate level, to do it quick, and not to ask too many extra questions and not to complicate your life. Let's start with fundamental question: do we need information security?
Информационная безопасность — это в каком-то смысле торговля страхом.
Information security is
Это можно назвать
fear
городскими легендами.
selling. So sometimes we can say that it's like street legends, and they tell you, so they hack you one day or another, they probably are hacking you right now, and there is a number of people, and there are many of these people, they're very evil and motivated, and they're like one step ahead of you. So all this is supported with analytics and articles, and one of the producers, there is a great picture where everything is kind of in flames and shooting and hitting and all that, and everybody attacks somebody.
Оценить эти городские легенды с точки зрения статистики.
So if we look at these legends from the point of view of statistics, then according to Ministry of Internal Affairs for 2023, the number of crimes that is done through computers grew by 30%, and seems like every third crime is done with a computer. So according to statistics, the probability that you will be robbed on the street or robbed through the computer, it's pretty much the same. 2021, 2022, cyber crime is growing. If we look at one of the vendors just for 1 year, just based on their statistics, without even taking into account the mobile devices, it will turn out that 3 times a second you have a unique virus. 3 times a second there is a malware link in the internet. Somebody's attacked, somebody's robbed, somebody's life is destroyed through the internet. And if we read all this and look at all of this, then you may think that, yes, we do need security. And then the next question is, what kind of security we need? And there are 3 boats here. One is partners, myself, for example. And partners, we say this with the position that is kind of professional distortion, so to speak. So if you're not buying firewall right now, that's probably going to be the biggest mistake in your life. On the other hand, there is state, and the state says that the security must be, and it should be very particular, and because of the inertia of the state and the big machine of the government and the regulations, and it's pretty conservative, and in many ways it's academic. If you take a stack methodology and you just make it directly, so then you don't even want to do that with a computer, and you probably want to switch to Abacus. And then there is this inner voice that you may rely on the mistakes who survived and the data that you have in your hand. These data can be relevant, it can be exhausting, and can be outdated. And answering the question, what security do we need? We give the following. Information security always will be the one that is trying to catch up. It was the first information security happened when the person was trying to write somebody something, and then mechanisms. Somebody tried to steal it, and then we had to come up with some mechanism to protect it. So we are always catching up. Perpetrators, they went quite a long way, and bad things may happen to you. And people who are resisting those perpetrators, they also went quite a long way. Somewhere in the middle of this picture, there are us. Something bad is not going to happen to you, but something will happen. And we need just to understand what that thing will be. Then we need to understand what type of security we need and what we're going to do and what we owe to the state. And there is another funny question that we have. What you can still use from the things that you have been having for a long time. So you, answering all these questions, you decide to run further. First questions that you need to ask, what are we afraid of? And there is a quite comprehensive approach. It's take any methodology of risk assessment. As I said, there are regulators, there are good international standards. We have non-tolerable events. There is also French EBIOS that also suggest to model threats and give you tools. You can do it for a while. So when we ask our clients what you're afraid of, and there's top three, something that will be encrypted from the outside, something will be stolen, and the infrastructure will be destroyed. So these three scenarios can be taken as a fundamentals, and they are understood not only by us, but also by the management who are going to spend money on security. And also you can add to it some scenarios contextually. And these scenarios may be in the heads of those who make decisions in the organizations. If you take a top manager, what your business depends on, they'll say a couple of cases. You take three basic cases and you take a couple of additional ones, and that's going to be enough. It's not everything that you have to be afraid of, but this will be something that may happen to you. And maybe another dozens of secondary situations. Whom to be afraid of? Classification is different. There can be inside men, bad people, and outside men, bad people. So, ideology and within the company and somebody who is sponsored by your competitors. Are you afraid of your own users or are you afraid of their errors? And from this you understand what internal threat you have. From the point of view of external threat, we need to understand is it going to hack us or not? If you think that the foreign state is not interested in you, if you think that your competitor is not interested in you, so then you can go on the middle level. The probability that you will be interesting for someone who's going to make money off you, so this probability always exists. And as I said, you may make this decision quite effectively. So what to protect yourself from? There are basic threats, standard attacks, targeted attacks, and this is direct threats you have. And there are standards. Despite all the volumes of laws, you just can't check them. Personal data, state secret, commercial secret. You can try to find the level of security that you need and relying on the regulations. And another thing that what we shouldn't prohibit to do in our infrastructure. So say you have administrators. in security, and you have developers. So we are modernizing our infrastructure. We spend a lot of time to
Между этими двумя сущностями согласовать какой-то подход, потому что одни постоянно говорят, что
find consensus between these two entities.
говорят, что 250.
Some of them say there's going to be an Armageddon,
Если мы запретим, то
and the other ones say that if you prohibit us to do something, so we take our notebooks and we run away from the company. So
инфраструктура
with the working process the same. Is your infrastructure ready for best practices that you're going to introduce and to make sure that it's protected? So if we put it all together, if it's combined, so we get kind of an integral idea what's going on. On the one hand, we have decomposition on the threats, attacks, then we have collateral costs. That's the cost that's growing, the team of expertise, and so the higher the level, the more money you'll have to put into it, and more people to be involved. On the other hand, you have other two factors that are kind of present on this level. So from the bottom, you have compliance. From the top, you have the limitations of specificity of your organization. And putting all this together, everybody can get their own security or your own level of security, the one that you want. And usually, it's a bit different for different people, but majorly it will be quite similar. So now about approaches.
Комплексная система безопасности — это, к сожалению, все еще автоматизированная система.
Complex system of security is still automated system, and for it to work, it has to go through several stages. Is to generate requirements, designing, implementation, commissioning, and all this, technology, process, and people. All this should be put together to work. It can be created by three ways. First, it's classical waterfall. So first we do it, we split it into three stages, then we give it to commissioning, and everybody's happy. There is another way, what we call agile. So we take some bits of it, so we split it into functions, the security, and then we're trying to get this function as quick as possible. And back to the question, so if bad people are way ahead of us, so they're at the level of 2024, May 24th, and probably from the level of security, you're probably in 2010 or maybe zero. So there was a good time back then, but you shouldn't stay there. And there is a third story. So when you're trying to systematize or trying to control the process, you just go precedent by precedent. So Cisco stopped working, you replaced it. So too much spam, you change the spam controller. Something happened with the computer with top manager, so you change antivirus. So that's kind of this random approach, chaotic approach. So, and it's quite often used.
Если мы говорим про то, что наша безопасность, она все еще требует...
If we say our security still requires an object of protection, and in many ways the object of protection is time to market,
должна как можно быстрее
so IT has to adapt very quickly to be able to support the main function of organization. Either it's making money or production of something. Or... So we suggest that security should be built based on the same principle. So our task is not to control particular hardware or to operate the cycle and all that. So our point is to see what function and when it's needed, and try to bring this function to operation so that it will be operating in an organization ideally and as fast as possible. So that's why we suggest that we need to evaluate the current situation, then generate the requirements, and then the whole process of implementation should be broken down into certain phases and cycles. So thus we are walking along spiral, getting to the target that we set for ourselves. So when we move there, so we get certain tasks. So there is CM. Ideally, CM is supposed to see everything. It should be able to plug to all sources, correlation rules. It should be many things taken into account. Rules. So you can set up CM. You can plug all the needed components, and cycle will begin.
Надо купить именно в таком объеме.
So then you realize you need to buy CM, then you need to set it up, install, and then you need to deal with tuning and rules. You can do all this if you want to. So you can take CM and focus on your pain points. So there are always bottlenecks that attackers use where they're going to come, if they're going to try to hack you. Usually it's controller domains, and so when you're focusing on the first pain point and function of controlling critical assets, and somebody whom we consider the most probable attack target, so you can introduce it now. Then installation of CM and implementation of it will take a few months very quickly. Then you also have to set up a certain device, and after that you can be expanding the system where this principle is applied. So it can be like this. And while we're doing it, we have buffs and debuffs. This is the readiness of the object to implement the solution. So that's why I suggest that we should focus not only the technical completeness of it, but you need to watch how well people work with the solution. And the process should be adjusted to changes on the way. And also there is a human factor. So bad things may happen. And even with Lockheed Martin model, it was just a stick with few levels, but it's not a foul kill chain. So that's an attempt to describe perpetrators' things, and it's like three circles with 12 stages. There are more than 400 sub-techniques. Well, actually, people who hack you, they're also people. And of course, they think about mortgage, that they want to go on vacation, they want to eat. They want to go to the supermarket and they see that food price are getting higher. So people who want to make money, they go where the resistance is the least. So last year I was talking about how we hacked, and despite the fact that the chain was pretty complicated, but it was a domain controller and distribution. So it was a constructor that was made of simple solutions, and they're working. While they're working, I don't think that many perpetrators will say it's very easy, so I'll try something new, just out of principle. Despite the fact we're trying to protect ourselves from typical things, because yes, there are people there, human factor plays there too, they have their own weaknesses, and most probably they work with many numbers. So from the point of view of any targeted attack, you don't have to look at the attack when somebody's trying to hack you. You need to look at this as like a bear that is pursuing the crowd of people, and you may think that the bear will eat others first, but not you. But it's probably pragmatic, maybe not human quite, but quite pragmatic. Back to kill chain. This sequence can be whatever you want. First of all, you need to make it as difficult as possible to get there. And at some point, the attack will be detected and blocked. So we work in two directions. When some things superimpose each other, superpositioned, so you need to make sure that the risks are under control. As I said before, on the one hand, we say we don't have to implement solutions one after another. We just need to implement the number of solutions that we think are effective, and then we can control the implementation itself. The completeness of implementation is defined by two indicators, scope and the functions that are realized as part of an implementation. So scope and functions, this is something we can control, where it's applicable at the level of function, at the level of system, and the type of objects you use. So the idea is that we need to take a number of solutions, and you need to build such curves that will help you to build solutions here and now. And when solutions are scalable based on the results of the previous cycle, you get more complete data. Through CM, it's very hard to go through when it's properly set. To scale up CM that's already working with infrastructure, it's going to be much easier. So that's why the task of the target is to give quick result and give information that will allow you to make decisions faster. Yet the same combination goes through several checks. This is budget, readiness of people to work with this, and the readiness of infrastructure. There are solutions where process exploitation is intuitive and understood, and probably they need some VPN and firewalls, and they're complex solutions. Without particular maintenance, they may turn into pumpkin at certain points. So that's why the idea is how well the solution, how good the solution is. It depends on how you operate these solutions. And it's better if you work with the solution on small volumes. So about what to implement. So it's not the full list from the first slide and all information. So if we implement this system of protection, I think we're about 70 or 80 classes of solutions that you can implement in Russia. And so if we decompose it down to classes, then you'll see that every solution appeared as a response to attack or a threat. And you just need to look at it. So do you need like antivirus or VPN or DDoS processor? Those that are blue, this is the things that you don't have to think about. This is something that you have to have. It's firewall, VPN, mail protection, and all that. But then you need to answer the question, do you need WAF? Here and now, do you have resources that you have on the internet? If they're going to hack those resources, are you going to be upset about it? Are there resources that you keep your client's database, or if it's going to shut down, so will you be frustrated about it? So if it's not, then you can skip WAF solution if you don't use it in some key points. When you will be able to detect this attack later on the infrastructure, but so you will have some damage, but not much. Will it be appropriate to pay for this type of protection? So if we're talking about paralleling resources, some parallel streams you may be able to cover, but should you? From the point of view of security awareness, do you know any users that gave away their login password? So you need security awareness. So if you don't trust your admins, you need PM. You're afraid that your users may steal your data, then you need DCAP. There are certain questions that you need to ask yourself to be able to see if you need certain solutions or not. So here it's very easy to identify core functions based on the fears that you have and the level of security. And this is how you can come up with a pack of solutions, and then you begin to implement those solutions. So then tools of analysis. So if you're afraid of targeted attacks, so you need CM, EDR, and Sandbox. So if you're on the web, you need WAF. So if you don't, you need NTA. So if you need to make it for the perpetrator, difficult for the perpetrator to penetrate your company, then you need security deception. As soon as you answer all these questions, then we know and we can say if you need the solutions or not. So if you want to see how security deception looks, you'll find 3 vendors. They'll make demonstration for you. They'll try to compare it. So you may spend 3-4 days just to understand what it is then you want to pilot, and then you will make a decision. So if you need speed, all the solutions for secondary things you can postpone. Because I'm sure that first you need to realize, do you need to replace solutions that you already have? There are certain preferences to send something to the server very quickly, and to look at the functional groups. It's either ecosystem that are integrated very well. So here we're talking about choice of solutions. So when you bring different pieces, you don't want it to be like a kilt. You want to look at integrations, functional connections, and you need to check hardware, how compatible your hardware and software are. So do you meet the compliance requirements? And what about this new requirements that the government brings? And the government will be toughening the rules anyway and raising the security bar. So bringing all this to one pile, so as a result, you can get a system that will consist not only from different bits that you don't know what to do with, but it will be a controllable, more or less integral whole that will have everything that you need to tackle negative scenarios. Of course, it's not everything, and of course, you need to continue working on risks and scenarios, and of course, because you're still in the catch-up mode, and you have to understand that it can be stretched in time. So while you're figuring all this out, your security will be working here now. Why I want to tell you about all this? Because from time to time, we have clients who are being encrypted. And often we have a situation when we provide them a roadmap. They choose solutions that they can buy, and those solutions were implemented. They were working, and everything was well with them. But these guys were still encrypted 2, 3, 4 times. Here there was an attempt to understand what we do wrong, so why it happens to people around us. So we need to learn how to save people from this, and we need to offer something. How that's going to work. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope